That's helpful. All right. Thank you so much, Betty, for reading the Coptic moment this evening. That was wonderful, and it fits in wonderfully with my topic tonight. I'll be talking about work and how work and viewing work from a spiritual perspective versus a human perspective can help us all and help us all to live a more joyous life, because work is such a large portion of our human life, right? We can all agree with that. And I agree with what Betty was saying and what Master Hamid Bey teaches us, is that we are spiritual beings here to have a human experience, right? We've all heard that? Yes? Yes? Do we live that is what my question is. And do we live that through the subject of work? And I don't think that we always do. So my talk tonight is how to live life as a spiritualist and balance the broad subject of work. What I like to do is go to the actual dictionary definitions of different things. And what I find is that I usually come across the human view of any particular word. But I was surprised when I went and looked up work, because there was actually some definitions of the word work that related to spirituality. And I was really kind of excited to find that out. So I'm going to share those things with you tonight. We're also going to take a look into an example of living life in a spiritual perspective as it relates to work. And I have a video clip that probably all of us have seen at one point in time, but it may have been a long time since you've seen it. But it's quite fun. And we'll go to that in a little bit. And then also I have some backronyms, a little play on words, to help us also relate to living life as a spiritualist and relating to work from a spiritual perspective. Okay? Are we ready? Are we ready to have some fun? Because I had fun putting this together, and I want to share that fun with you. So my first thing is a look at work from a human perspective. Okay. Merriam-Webster.com defines work as activity in which one exerts strength or faculties to do or perform something. Now I love that, because here we are saying that we are human beings, and a lot of time when we talk about spiritual subjects, we talk about being versus doing. But yet here the dictionary definition of work gives us the human view and says do or perform something. So that, to me, was the first thing that indicated this was looking at work from the human view. If we skip down to B on this list, work is also defined as the labor, task, or duty that is one's accustomed means of livelihood. So that typically is what we all think of as work. When you read my title of my talk tonight, is that what you thought of, work? The labor, task, or duty that is one's accustomed means of livelihood. That's typically what we think of as work. And to me, there again, that falls under the human view of work. Also in the dictionary, when I was looking up work and thinking about my topic, there I came across the synonyms for work. So the first one there, labor, second, travail, toil, drudgery, and grind. Really? grind. We'll talk more about each of these things, but work may imply activity of body, of mind, of a machine, or of a natural force. So I thought that was interesting that they did include the body when they talk about work, but also it is of the mind and of a natural force. So all means activity involving effort or exertion. So let's take a look at each one of these individual words. We have labor. This says labor applies to physical or intellectual work involving great and often strenuous exertion. Strenuous exertion. Not only is work, but it also has to be monumental and strenuous exertion. Really? That's how we look at work? That's from the human view. Strenuous exertion. Travail is the next one on this list. Travail is actually an old word. We might think that it's a new word, but it's not. It's actually an old word. And it says that travail is bookish for labor involving pain or suffering. Pain or suffering? Not only does work have to be monumental and strenuous, we also have to endure pain and suffering when it comes to work. Did we know that? In the back of our minds, we know that. We think of that. That's how we think of work from the human view, right? Also, there's grind. Grind implies labor exhausting to the mind or the body. So not only does work have to be monumental, does it have to be strenuous, does it have to involve pain and suffering, it also includes exhausting and being exhausting, not only to the body, but to the mind. That's the way we look at work from the human view. And that's just wrong. I'm sorry. I just think it's wrong. It's just wrong. Yes? Somebody else who you think is wrong?
I just wanted to say in many cases that's actually very accurate. But the ideal, when we start figuring out the way things work, then I think the potential exists for those things to be completely different and us to learn that work is not work at all and it's fun.
And that's what we're getting to.
Awesome.
Yep. And we'll figure out how to do that. I do have a few other words that I also wanted to talk about when we talk about work. So there's drudgery. So that suggests dull and irksome labor. So not only does work, do we consider work boring, but then it has to be irritating too. I mean, come on, really? That's the way we think of work. All right. So the last word that I wanted to bring your attention to is toil. How often do we talk about toil and labor? You know, work is always toil and labor. Toil implies prolonged and fatiguing labor, so not only does work have to take a long time, but it also has to tire you out. Otherwise, it's just not work, right? That's all from the human view. Now, what I love about the word toil, and as it relates to work, is that it is the beginning of toilette, right? Have you ever noticed that? Toil and toilette, the beginning of toilette. So my advice is that we say down with work, and that all of these thoughts and suggestions from the human view are all a bunch of crap and we should flush it down and be done with it. So what happens when you flush the toilet? You get the swirl in the water and the swirl, and then you get the sound and you get the whoosh, right? So I combine it and I say swoosh. So okay, we're up to the point where it's down with work. Swoosh! Are you with me? It's a fun thing to do, all right? We're down with work. Swoosh! All right, one more time, just because we need practice, and it'll come up later on, okay? So down with work. Swoosh! Okay, great. So that's work from the human view. So let's take a look at work from the spiritual view here. Okay, we'll do that. Let's see. We'll move forward. Swoosh. Okay, so we have more definitions from about work from Merriam-Webster.com. So 2A there says, something produced or accomplished by effort, exertion, or exercise of skill. Now exertion, I'm going to just overlook exertion. But I do like exercise of skill and something to accomplish. So effort to accomplish something. Yeah, that's okay. That's kind of spiritual. But B there says something produced by the exercise of creative talent or expenditure of creative effort. Now there you go. That excites me. Creative effort. We can relate and refer to work using something creative and creative efforts. So that's something more positive to focus on. That we can focus on from the spiritual perspective of work. Now if we go on, there's even another dictionary definition of work. And I like this too. This is energy expended by natural phenomenon. Have you ever thought of work that way? Is that just a little bit more positive? Here we are, all spiritual beings here to have a human experience, and we can think of work as a natural phenomenon, energy expended by natural phenomenon. Much better way to think about work. Now if we skip down to C, and I'm going to read this, part of the reason why I have my notes is because, one, there's a little bit, going on with all of these definitions, but also because I'm just going to read this. All right, so bear with me here. The transference of energy that is produced by the motion of the point of application of a force and is measured by multiplying the force and the displacement of its point of application in the line of action.
That's very mathematical.
To me, well, that's why it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm non-logical and emotion-driven and everything like that. So I read that and it's like, what? What? That has no meaning to me. I don't know what they're saying there. But I looked at it from each individual word. So I picked out, and I have that ability. I have the ability to see only what I want to see. Just like some of us have the ability to only hear what we want to hear. You know how that goes. So I saw only what I wanted to see in this. So what I saw was the transference of energy. So I like that, right? We're transforming, we're transferring energy from one thing. We are energy. Everything is energy, right? And then of the point of application of a force. Now, I look at that as a force or a source, and that would be like the force of God, right? So that's the way I looked at that. So we have the transference of energy from a force or a source, and then multiplying the force and the displacement of its point of application. Now, I see displacement as what we are as human beings. Right? If we believe that we are spiritual beings here to have a human experience, then we were displaced from a place of spirit here on earth to experience life in physical form. So I put that all together, that we are the transference of energy through a force or source, which is God, and measured by what we do by our actions here on earth. Now that may be a stretch, but just humor me a little bit and say, yeah, that's it, Aim, right? Cool. Yeah, great. Thanks. Okay, so I liked that. So that's my take on the spiritual view of work. And these are all, like I say, straight from the dictionary, Merriam-Webster.com. So how do we use this and relate it to reality? Let me just see here. So reality, according to the dictionary, is the world or the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idyllic or notional idea of them. And what example they give here is he refuses to face reality. And I say, yes, I'm refusing to face reality because I'm looking at life from the spiritual perspective. So I am standing up and I'm being proud to say I do face a different reality than what other people do. And in regards to work, I look at work differently than other people do because I'm a spiritualist. So yes, I proudly stand up and say that I refuse to face reality when it comes to work. I admit that fully. And I encourage everyone else, too, to stand up to that. Alan's raising his hand in the back. Yes, yes. Okay, so synonyms for reality. We have the real world, real life, actuality, truth, and physical existence, distinguishing fantasy from reality. Now, of course, like I said, I have the ability to see only what I want to see. So all of what I picked out of that, the only thing that rang and resonated with me was truth. So our reality is what we choose it to be and what truth we decide it is. What is truth? Truth is, and according to this, the state or quality of having existence or substance. So whatever it is we decide reality is for us, that's what it is. And relating it to work, I decided that work to me is something more positive and more spiritual and more uplifting and creates joy within my life. What the next slide is. Okay, so we're going to get to that here in a minute. But let's take a look at the promised video that I have. Alan, if you'll key that up for me. Now, I don't know if anybody else remembers Mary Poppins. Yay, yes. I remember being, grade school and sitting in my grandmother and grandfather's living room with my brother and my cousins and watching the Disney movies. Of course, it wasn't video back then. It was on the TV, and, we just barely, yeah.
Wild Kingdom.
Yes, that's it, exactly. That's it.
Popcorn and frozen lemonade.
Yep, sitting on the floor, watching the movies. Yep, that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins and that type of thing. But at that time, did we know that it also had spiritual implications? And here we are years later, and we'd be watching Mary Poppins and what she has to say about work. All right. Yay. Okay, so I'm going to add to that. So here we have the thought that we're going to flush our ideas of work, and we're going to...
You need to get grounded.
I write pretty much all day.
There we go. The ads on YouTube. So here we are. We're going to take a spoonful of sugar and help the medicine go down when it comes to work, and we're going to combine that. We're flushing away with a swoosh and a whoosh of what our human existence and thought is about work. And we're going to combine the two, and I'm going to ask you to sing with me as we go through and say, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Swoosh! A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Swoosh! The medicine go down. The medicine go down. Swoosh! All right. I'm sorry, my singing ability. I wanted. We'll get Michael to lead us here.
Right on.
Before it ends, but yes. So a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Swoosh. All right, that's the idea. So now that we're energized by the thought of work rather than brought down by it, I have just a few other things to talk about, and that is the backronyms relating to work. So how do we resist reality, and how do we think about work from a spiritual standpoint? If instead we look at work as wisely opening to receive knowledge, and I believe that that's what Hamid Bey talked about, is everything is a way and an opportunity to receive knowledge. And work, most definitely, is, if you look at it as wisely opening to receive knowledge. And the next question that I have for everyone is, why do we talk about work in terms of retiring? Have you ever thought about that word, retire? Why retire? So work has been dull and drudgery and toil up until this point, and you're finally ready to, and you are tired of working? So then you say you're going to retire? As if it wasn't tiring enough the first time, now you're going to retire? I suggest that we look at it and we say, I'm not retired, I'm revitalized. Right? Somebody asks you, are you working? No, I'm revitalized. I'm still living. And revitalize turns into receiving and engaging vital information to totally awaken to a life ignited with zealous energy. Do you like that? One more time. Receiving and engaging vital information to totally awaken to a life ignited with zealous energy. I am revitalized. There you go. So, let's try this again. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Swoosh! The medicine go down. Swoosh! The medicine go down. Swoosh! A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Swoosh! Medicine go down. Swoosh! Medicine go down. Swoosh! All right. So in closing, I just want to say, resist the human view of reality. Look at work from the spiritual perspective. Say swoosh to anything that involves toil and labor, and live a revitalized life.